All right. Dearly beloved, we have gathered here today to raise empowered creators with less screens and more imagination, creativity, and connection. I am Bradley Morris. I am the co-founder of Majik Kids, alongside my son Soren and my wife Celeste. And I am also the founder of Magic Media and Play Chi Ball. Um, and my intention, my hopes, and my dreams for today's workshop is that everybody walks away with simple, practical, tangible ways in which we can support the young ones in our lives to step into creatorship instead of just consumership. Um, and before we fully get into it, I just want to offer a short little bit of background information here. One, I'm not an expert on children. So I just want to preface this whole workshop. This is based on the discoveries that Celeste and I have had in our parenting journey. This is based on research and discoveries that we've had from raising Soren, from studies that we've seen, from experiments that we have done in our own homeschooling, unschooling adventure with Soren. And our hopes is that when we put this workshop together, Celeste has been very, very supportive and helpful. I taught this workshop a couple weeks ago at a pretty big education leadership conference in California. And when I was done, one of the educators said, "Are you going to be teaching this again? Would you come teach it at our school?" And so that inspired and motivated me to want to share this workshop with more parents and more educators. And so my hopes are this inspires all of you. My career for the last 22 years has been at the intersection of education, entertainment, inspiration, and human transformation. I taught more than 500 meditation workshops many years ago, produced a world class audio meditation library that got picked up by one of the biggest personal growth companies in the world. And that went on to serve many millions of people and sparked the creation of our creative agency, Magic Media, about a dozen years ago. And since then, I've worked with thousands of education based entrepreneurs, creators, teachers, transformation facilitators, etc. And that is what led us to build Magic Kids. That and the need for values aligned audio entertainment for children to help get them off screens. And so Celeste and my journey as homeschool parents, as parents in general, we have raised Soren, our son, who's 9.5 now, with little screen time. We're not anti-tech, but we are pro-tech when it comes to using it for creativity and bringing value to the world. I have worked on the internet for my entire career, and I have used technology as a way to serve humanity, bring joy to the world, and provide value to other humans. So we're not against tech by any means, but most of what we're experiencing in the modern media age and the era of raising children is raising kids to become consumers. And we're going to dig into this in just a moment here. I just wanted to preface the whole workshop with a little bit of background on who I am, who we are, and where we're coming from here. And so I'm going to dig into the presentation side. So one of the things, and I think we all see this, and I have to just name it. We're going to go through a little bit of the bad news stuff first, and we're not going to dwell on the bad news, but it's important for some people that are out of the loop to actually just understand what is going on in children's media. And one of the things, and this stat, I have tried to debunk it, but everywhere I have researched is true, is that kids are spending 6 to 8 hours a day on screens. And most of that is entertainment based learning. So straight first thing in the morning, after school, in school, etc. And so the moral of this story is modern media is basically designed to hijack our child's attention and nervous system, creating dependency and addiction and more consumption, which basically it's engineered just like social media to keep attention so that companies can make more money off of our children. And it's sad because kids are the future, and if we're hijacking their ability to focus and we're hijacking their nervous system, that's not going to look so good for humanity in a generation or two from now. And I know we can all agree on this. There is a video that I was going to show today, but I decided not to. You can look it up. It's called No No Melon. It's by a comedian. It's basically how media companies like Coco Melon are literally engineered to hijack a child's ability to focus. And they literally have scientists that watch children as they create new episodes. And every time a child looks away from the screen, they go back into post production and they edit those parts to make them more sticky. So your child essentially never wants to look away from Coco Melon. So they're capturing attention, maximizing engagement, reducing the friction, which creates this dependency. I had a conversation with Soren, my son. We'll talk about him quite a bit in this workshop here. But a few weeks ago, he's like, I know why they call it a show. And his answer is because they show us what our imaginations need to see. Whereas audio, and we're big fans of audio here at Majik Kids, obviously. We're doing movies for the ears, audio stories, music, meditations, and creative curriculum, where that puts our imagination to work. We have to envision the worlds that are being shared within our imaginations. So some of the truths about excess screen time, we don't need to get too deep into this because we're all aware, but the big problem that we have is in our modern day ecosystem is like, yeah, there's problems, and a lot of parents have screen guilt, and we don't need to have the screen guilt because it helps nobody. The root problem is parents don't have community and infrastructure to support the innate physiological design of parenting. We're all overwhelmed, we're all stretched, and screens step in as the place of aunties and uncles to help. And so we are going to get into practical tools, but this is a deep-rooted issue. And, we live on a small island on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia here in Canada, the west coast of Canada. And so, you know, one of the things that we've tried to do is build village around ourselves, our son, and our life. And it's hard to do. It takes a lot of work to build and maintain a village. And we've had chapters where we felt surrounded by a village and chapters where we feel alone in our parenting journey. And so whatever you can do and we can do collectively to create more village around our children, that's ultimately going to help lower all these statistics that we see right here. So the effects, we all feel the effects. Everybody feels the effects, is that basically too much screen time is training our children to be passive consumers rather than empowered creators. That is the way the system is designed right now. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to participate in. And so we're here to help reverse this. We want to support all of you to help create spaces and environments that allow for a greater ability to focus, imagine, and create so that children can be in their wholeness all the way through their childhood. And right now, the media landscape pulls kids outside of themselves, which makes it harder to regulate, focus, concentrate, and do all the things. And kids are simply just responding to the environment that they're growing up in. They're not broken. They're literally just responding exactly as biology predicts they will. So the whole purpose of this workshop is if we change the conditions, different children emerge. Greater attention spans, greater ability to deal with stress or challenging situations, greater desire to create, to imagine, to play, to move. And that is what this is all about. So again, we're not against technology. So this company right here, this is a company called Daylight Computer. I recently became friends with the inventor of this zero blue light computer. So one of the issues with kids being on screens all day is the flickering blue light. And there's all sorts of research to back this. But the flicker-free screens that Daylight Computer makes, they reduce ADHD symptoms, they improve focus, less eye strain, they help with mood, sleep, etc. So if your kids have to be on screens for, say, school or something like that, Daylight Computers is an amazing solution. I'm not getting anything out of promoting them here. There's a QR code. I'm just going to leave this up here for 30 seconds. You can check them out for yourself. I've been very impressed with Anjan, who's the inventor and founder of Daylight Computers. We're looking into some potential partnerships with them in the coming months to integrate Majik Kids into their platforms. And If you're going to have tech, then find the healthiest versions of tech that are possible for your kids and for your own eyeballs. We have one for ourselves. And Soren, if you follow our Majik Kids newsletter, he's doing the Saturday morning cartoon section in our newsletters, and he does all those cartoons on his daylight computer. So the next little piece is obviously we're all very aware. It's weird times on planet Earth. The ground has shifted beneath us. We are coming from, I remember growing up and in my 20s and 30s, it was called the information age, is that all of the information that has ever existed is available. Well, now we have robots and AI who are going to be holding all of that information and all of the ability to perform the how-to tasks. So we're seeing this rapidly increase in speed. And so we're moving into a new space called the intelligence age. And so our job as parents is not to prepare kids for the jobs of 2010, but to prepare them for a future of 2040, which means to help them cultivate their innate superintelligence as humans, which requires them to have deep empathy, to keep their imaginations intact so that they can dream the better world that's available, to improve their complex creativity and problem solving abilities so that they can critically think, so that they can discern for themselves what is true and what is not, and so they can think for themselves, and so that they can collaborate with the technologies that are going to be coming down the pipeline in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. And so the question is, how do we support them to develop these innate superintelligence that exists within all of these brilliant, amazing kids that are in our lives? Because we want to raise children to be connected to their own brilliance. And every kid comes in brilliant in their own unique way. And so that is our job as the grown-ups in their lives, is to support them in all of those ways. So here are conditions that we can create for our children. And the idea is that the health of the soil is what helps a plant to grow, and the environment, the light, the rain, etc. So the environment our children grow up in is just like that soil. And so we're going to be digging into these 6 conditions that are going to support your children and our children to grow up as empowered creators. And again, this comes from our experiments as parents. This comes from our life philosophies as homeschoolers with Soren, and this comes from backed research that other people have figured out in raising kids who are highly creative, activated, engaged, grounded, and present. So let's dig in. Number 1 is connection. So children are essentially designed to co-regulate with their caregivers and their environment. And they're not designed to self-regulate. They need our regulation to regulate themselves. And so dysregulation in kids is not necessarily a problem. It's actually simply information. So when our child acts out, they're in a natural response to the conditions of their environment. So we look to the environment as if it was the soil. So when we orient our children inside safe connection, they co-regulate. And this is coherence. This is their ability to respond naturally to what's happening around them. So children don't necessarily move toward coherence through control. What they do is they move toward coherence through connection. And a lot of the systems, school, say for example, is a system of control. Whereas we're trying to create coherence through connection. So when a child feels seen, safe, and understood, their nervous system naturally settles. I think us as grown-ups, we all have the same thing. If we feel safe, we can settle in our nervous system. We can feel comfortable. We can feel like our natural self can be expressed in the environment that we're in. And when they don't feel that connection, the brain shifts into a protection mode. So what adults often interpret as bad behavior, doing the air quotes here for anybody that's listening to this in the future, it's actually their nervous system asking for help. And so on the surface, bad behavior could be defiance or distraction, withdrawal, emotional reactivity. And underneath what it actually is dysregulation, disconnection, overwhelm, or a lack of self-safety. So a dysregulated child is literally just unable to access logic, empathy, and listening. And connection is the thing that brings them back online. And so we're living in an era right now where a lot of parents are overwhelmed. And so if parents are overwhelmed, then they're dysregulated. And then those dysregulated children who are sponges of the parents' energy are then going to school, and the teachers are like, these kids can't learn anymore. And that's just because everybody is spiraling into a state of dysregulation. And so in practice, what connection looks like is regulating yourself first, because children borrow our nervous system, to getting close, kneeling down, softening our voices, eye contact, having patience. And something that I've seen work really well, and my wife Celeste is amazing at this, is just naming what you see. For example, I can see you're really frustrated right now. And then digging into being curious instead of trying to control the situation, and taking the time to really just slow our pacing and our tone down. And so kids learn regulation through the co-regulation over a long period of time. It's not something that just happens. I meditated today. Why isn't my kid regulated? It's something that we build. It's a muscle that builds over time, which means if we want connected kids, we need to bring regulation to ourselves. And that's why we partner with companies like Soul Shop. So Soul Shop has served over 1 million kids down in California. They're one of our education partners inside of the Majik Kids app. And they have all sorts of social emotional learning tools for educators, for parents, and for kids that you can literally just go in and listen to the resources, and they provide really helpful tools to all of those just the categories I mentioned. We also have inside of the Majik Kids app my own personal meditation library that's been listened to by millions and millions of meditators around the world. And that is also included in the $7.99 a month subscription, so that parents can also take the time out of their day and regulate themselves, which takes us into the second condition, which is regulation. So connection was first, regulation is number two. And regulation is the foundation of life and learning, period. Regulation doesn't mean being calm all the time. And this is something that Celeste brought to my attention, is like everybody is trying to say regulation is just being calm, having a neutral calm, which is a form of control. But real regulation is the ability to move through emotions and then return to balance. So kids are naturally going to get frustrated and excited and overwhelmed and angry and be silly and bounce off the walls. And that is completely healthy. And I do that as well. And I'm guessing all of you probably do as well at some time. And so regulation is the nervous system's ability to ride those waves without getting stuck in them. And then, according to the polyvagal theory, safety comes before the executive function. So when a child can't listen, focus, cooperate, or solve problems, it's often not a behavioral or intelligence issue. It's literally a nervous system issue. Now, I didn't learn meditation until I was 19 or 20. And it was life-changing for me, because for the first time in my whole life, I was able to regulate my own nervous system. But in school growing up, I was a terrible student. I would go on bathroom breaks 2 to 3 times every single class. I would often get kicked out of class for acting out. And that was because I was the kid bouncing off the walls. I was unable to focus, and the learning essentially felt irrelevant to me. So that made it even harder to focus. And when I was able to learn meditation and ground myself, all of a sudden I left this hazy way in which I had grown up. And I was able to ground all of the energy that was moving through my system. And so oftentimes kids who might be labeled as defiant, lazy, or unmotivated, unfocused, or distracted like me are literally just simply dysregulated. And regulation is a skill that they can learn. So I just want to be clear for those that this is a new term to what regulation is not and what it is, because there's a lot of preconceived ideas. Self-regulation, and the more we dig into this with Majik Kids and as we're expanding partnerships and that, like, this is definitely a buzzword right now, and people are paying attention, which is a good thing. So, what regulation is not is always being calm. It's not a break from learning. It's the way in which we prepare our brain for learning. It's not a reward for good behavior of like, okay, you behaved all day. We're going to give you this thing that helps you regulate. It is actually the foundation for attention and cooperation. It's the way in which children are going to want to show up and learn in a classroom or homeschool setting. It's also not extra work added to the day. And this was a mindset shift I had to make on my own years ago, was to just like, I need this meditation, that this isn't like extra work. This is something that I need to do for myself so that I can feel like a human. And it's not something that we do to fix a child's behavior. It's something that we do to help their nervous system feel safe and calm. And it literally, especially with kids, because they just get this stuff so fast, is it can literally just take a few minutes of practice, and a kid can become in such a more grounded, calm state. So we're going to do a little experiment right now. I have one of our Majik Kids imagination meditations. Now, this is normally for kids, and I believe it's all grown-ups in the space right now. But I want you to just see. This is the breathing bubbles practice. So essentially, this helps turn kids' bodies into a bubble blowing device. And so it's a really fun, imaginative way for kids to do breath work. And I'm going to play it right now. And we're just going to do literally about a 90 seconds of this particular practice, just to see what 5 breaths feels like in your body right now. And perhaps this is just the thing you need in this moment of your day. So I'm going to skip forward just a little bit, and we're going to begin.
Perfect. Now let's begin. Take a slow, deep breath. And as you do, you're loading that bubble blower. Open your mouth and exhale the air and the bubbles. Watch those bubbles float up towards the roof or the sky. Now let's do it again. Breathe in, filling your body with this breath. And exhale, releasing those floating bubbles out into the atmosphere. Watch as those imaginary bubbles rise up and float. Breathe in again, creating more bubbles. Smile and release those joyful bubbles out into the world to enjoy. Did you see that one pop? Let's do it again. Breathing in, creating bubbles, and exhaling out, releasing the bubbles for all to enjoy. This time, breathe in and notice what feeling is beneath the surface. And release that feeling inside a bubble. Watch it float away. Bye-bye, bubble. Notice how breathing in slowly, 1, 2, 3, and releasing these imaginary bubbles feels for your body and brain. Sit there for a moment and play with your breathing and body's bubble-making abilities on your own for a minute. Have some fun with this game. Breathing in, bubbling out.
Pretty simple, everybody. How you feel? Love this. My inner child is so delighted, right? It's so simple. And like that's how you get kids into meditation. That's how you teach them that, okay, let's, before we go to bed, if bedtime battles are a challenge in your household, let's do the bubble blowing practice. And we have dozens of imagination meditations just like this that are all imagination and play based, that helps kids to learn about their mind, their body, their breath, their nervous system, how to regulate it themselves. It gives them the tools so as they grow out of the phase in their life where their regulation is dependent on your regulation, that they have these tools in their arsenal, because I didn't develop these tools until later in life, and I'm grateful I did discover them. And for all of you, you also have the ability to share these, because some kids don't want you to guide a meditation for them. They want somebody else. They don't want to listen to mom or dad when it comes to meditation, but you could put on something like this and that's going to support them. So let's move on to condition number 3. And this is important, and it is imagination. Imagination is a muscle and a skill to develop, right? So what happens with, as Soren said in the earlier quote, shows show our imagination what to see and what to visualize. They take our ability away from us to imagine, whereas audio activates the visualization networks in the brain way more than video. So when children listen, the brain has to build the images itself. And that process strengthens imagination. Now, imagination is not just for play. It fuels a whole bunch of the core human abilities that make us who we are, like creativity, empathy, curiosity, foresight, meaning making. Everything that exists in our world right now, if you look around your home, if you look around the world, everything started as something that was imagined by somebody. And then they went ahead and created it or built it. So when screens do the imagining for our children, those muscles get used less and they go away. I don't know if you've ever noticed somebody who's stuck in their head and they're extremely logical and analytical. That might be somebody whose imagination has switched off. And so when kids listen to audio stories, they imagine and the world and themselves, and they create a connection to the characters. They develop empathy for the whoever's in the story, and those inner capacities get stronger. So, like regulation, imagination is something that you develop when you use it. It's pretty cool. So we're going to do another quick experiment because I want you to try this on today. You're here, you're giving your time and your presence. And so I'm going to play a very short clip. Now, this is one of the stories that Soren and I wrote, and it's inspired by the times we're in. We're only going to do the first 3 minutes of this story. But what we're going to be noticing for you is, what does this world look like? What do the creatures and characters look like? What does it feel like as you're imagining the scene from this world? And this is going to show you the power when you turn on audio stories for the kids in your life, because their imaginations are even wilder and more switched on than any of us. So take a moment. You can close your eyes if you want and just enjoy a few minutes of story time.
On a planet far away, there was a sad little city. Yes, the state of this city was not at all pretty. All the grown-ups were grumps and always disagreed, and their bad vibes had spread like a pesky old weed. All the elders had become cranky and bitter. No longer did their eyes sparkle and glitter. And their children, now adults, didn't fall far from the tree. They cast blame like big rocks and had no eyes to see that their misery was caused by their own negative ways. Instead, they'd moan and complain and carry on for days. Yes, the state of this city was a sad sight indeed, but no one stood up and no one would lead. And where were the kids in this dark and strange place? Were they playing in a playground with a smile on their face? Well, that's not quite true, nor is it quite right. You see, the adults learned a trick that they deemed to be bright. They put their kids in front of screens to settle them down. Then the kids became quiet. They didn't make a sound. They were still as a stone with their eyes open wide, watching the moving pictures from low till high tide. Days turned to months, and they hardly went out. They became couch potatoes. They didn't giggle or shout. The shows that they watched stole their imaginations away. They were like screen-watching zombies all night and all day. The kids forgot how to play and critically think too. It was a bleak-looking future. No one knew what to do. You see, if you get stuck in a rut for way too darn long, it can become a comfortable place, making it hard to move on. Because change can be funny. It can seem scary and weird. Your mind makes up stories about what ought to be feared, eventually making you numb to how bad things have got, which is what happened in this city where everyone fought. Now, before you get sad and think the story is done, there's a happy ending coming, so get ready for some fun. Because on one auspicious day, the power suddenly died. Then the flashing screens went blank, and all the kids cried. They wailed and they slammed, yelling for more, more, more! But when more was no more, they didn't know what to do. Without entertainment, how would they pass the time through? Because they'd forgotten how to imagine, create, and play. They sat there in despair, unsure of what to say. After the shock wore off, and the screams turned to songs, the parents got annoyed without the screens doing their jobs. So they kicked the kids out and said,
"Come back when it's dark."
That particular story, you can listen to the rest of it for free on our landing page if you click on that QR code there. And we have 60 audio stories inside the Majik Kids app that we call Movies for the Ears, which was a term dubbed by one of Soren's young buddies when he was 5, when we first started creating our first audio stories, and he was in the back seat of the car when I drove him home, and I said, "Well, what did you think, buddy?" And he said, "That was like a movie for my ears." And so it's like, congratulations, you are officially on the branding team for Majik Kids. But as you can see, you all pictured a world. It was a different planet, obviously. It probably wasn't humans, was it? Who was in this world? What emotions stood out for you while listening to that? And what did the characters look like? And there is a happy ending if you do check out the rest of it. It's actually pretty hilarious what happens next and how the parents finally come around. But you could have 1,000 people listen to that exact same story. And those 1,000 people will imagine a different world, different colors, different characters. Everything will be different. And that is the beauty of imagination. And what's happening right now is tragic that kids are losing their ability to imagine and to create because the screens are showing them what to see, which means who is going to dream into this better world that is coming? So this is one of the things. Imagination shapes how we all experience the world. And so in a world with imagination, kids are creative, they're curious, they're empathetic, they're playful, and the world feels full of possibility and wonder and meaning. This is the magic of childhood. And for those of us who are able to keep that magic of childhood intact, we all understand how magical life really is. And in a world without imagination, where imagination has been stripped away, the opposite tends to happen. Kids become passive, they become disengaged and disconnected. They seek out the next dopamine hit from a screen, from a game, video game, from something else. And so experiences feel flatter and more shallow without the magic of imagination. And imagination is what helps children, oh, there's my dog getting up, step into other perspectives, invent new ideas, solve problems, and bring joy and magic into everyday life. This is what childhood should be about. So it is our job to protect imagination and to ensure that we're protecting the qualities that really make us fully human. All of these things that are listed on this and all the others, that the values that are most important to you, to each of us. So let's move on to number 4, agency. So when kids have agency, learning transforms. I know for myself, when I left college to become an entrepreneur, all of my resistance to learning and education dissolved. It disappeared because everything that I was learning at that time became completely relevant to my passions, my interests, to ways in which I could serve people and be useful in the world. And that was a life changing shift for me. And so with kids, there's something called the self determination theory, which shows that when kids feel a sense of autonomy, their motivation increases dramatically. I experience that for myself. I see that with my son. When children have meaningful choice, their prefrontal cortex becomes more active. So basically, the part of their brain responsible for focus, for problem solving, and decision making, things that we're seeing disappear in our current generation of children who are getting bogged down by screen time and the control mechanisms within education, these things switch on. So learning sticks more easily, so retention increases, and kids remember more and persist longer through challenging experiences when the learning matters to them. So this is one of the foundational pieces in child-led learning, which is how we're approaching education for Soren. So when we honor children's dignity by giving them a voice and a real choice in their learning, basically the desire to lean in and engage fully switches on. So learning shifts from this is something I have to do to this is something I want to do and I get to do and I'm excited about it. And that is when everything really ultimately changes. So some people, and I know being at this education conference and talking about some of these concepts, this terrifies teachers. The idea of giving kids more agency because they think it means no structure and complete chaos. And that's not at all what agency actually means. It doesn't mean you're taking away the boundaries. Agency is meaningful choice within a clear structure or framework. So you're still providing the container, the standards, and the guidance, but kids get to take some ownership in the process. And when a kid takes some ownership, that means their motivation comes from the inside instead of the outside. And instead of their motivation being based on external pressures, punishments, or rewards, they feel intrinsic motivation to lean in and want to learn. They're excited about it. Is that making sense, everybody? So here's the thing, is we want to build from the spark, to ask kids, what are you curious about right now? What gets you excited? What are you most passionate about? What do you love to do? And listening to those answers and then brainstorming together, looking for answers around themes that you could explore across subjects, research, projects you could do. And this is essentially like inside of the Majik Kids app. Every single story, we develop many, many hours worth of creative curriculum. So the idea is behind everything we create inside the Majik Kids app is that you could listen to one of our movies for the ears audio stories, and then you could do days and days worth of creative projects. If you're homeschooling or you have a caregiver or a babysitter or you're a teacher, you have so many hours worth of creative ideas and entire curriculum designed for you. It's just literally, here's all of the things that you need for this project and here's the instructions on how to facilitate it for a kid or a classroom. And that makes learning fun. And when learning grows from curiosity and passion, we all know, we all have things that we love to geek out on. We all have rabbit holes that we enjoy going down. And that means when we're in those states of passionate learning, everything we're doing is completely and totally relevant to us. And when it's relevant, it becomes exciting, fun, and memorable. It sticks. And that's when engagement, retention increase in learning and in life. And so that's ultimately what the difference is in agency. So agency is giving some meaningful choices to the kiddos in our lives so that they're excited about everything that they get to learn on a day-to-day basis. And this is something that's intrinsic in kids, but entertainment, the junk food entertainment industry is taking some of these intrinsic motivations away, and nobody's aware of it. So let's go on to number 5 here. So super important. I'm one of those grown-ups who still doesn't sit still very well, and movement and play are one of the most important things that kids can be doing, because they're not supposed to be sitting in a desk all day. Movement's not meant to be something that we do as a break from learning. It's a part of the ways in which our brain actually learns best. And I just want to point to this. Children's playtime has dropped over 70% in this last generation. Screen time has replaced playing. Let that sink in. 70% of kids are not playing. So when children move, blood flows, oxygen reaches the brain, and the prefrontal cortex activates. That's the part that's responsible for focus, impulse control, and decision making. So movement strengthens memory because learning becomes embodied instead of something that's just intellectualized in our brain. It becomes in our body so that we remember it. And so the challenge with kids who play 70% less is that that embodiment is not happening. And that means we've removed one of the brain's most natural learning and recalibration systems. And I mean, the research is wild right now about attention spans diminishing and kids having more anxiety in classes. And a big piece of it, a simple piece, is they just need to move more. They need to get out into nature. I know for myself, back when I was growing up, and I'm sure all of you as well, it's like we got kicked outside when we got home from school. It's like go outside and play, come back at dinner. Weekends, go outside and play. Come back at lunch, come back at dinner. So play and movement, they go hand in hand. That's why they're a part of number 5 here together. And play is not the opposite of learning. Play is actually the brain's fastest learning state. It's what engages the bioemotional intelligence and moves energy through our body in generative ways. So when kids play, the stress hormones drop and dopamine rises, and dopamine is the brain's signal that tells the kids that are playing that this really matters and I'm going to remember this. So play also increases social connection and motivation without needing rewards or pressure. And one of the things that we see so often these days in stats is how anxious kids are in social situations. So research is consistently showing that active learning, so that could be doing the thing, teaching somebody else the thing, playing while learning about the thing, or having a group discussion. Those increase the ability to retain whatever it is that you're learning than just passive listening, meaning a teacher up at the blackboard talking about the thing. And when learning feels like play, engagement skyrockets. I know this, we all know this. It's just how it works, and it's something that's not necessarily being implemented enough inside the school system. So this is a game that I am the co-founder of Play Chi-Ball. I've been playing this game, developing the rules with my buddies for about 14 years. It is a very simple, fun, keep it up, cooperative game. I'm going to show this quick video here because I've never seen a game that is more engaging and magnetic. The motto of the game is make friends with strangers. And all you need is a rattan ball and you can play anywhere with anyone, and kids absolutely love it. It's like the balloon game, keeping it up, but you're using this hand-woven rattan ball. So I'm going to share this short video here so you can learn a little bit more and have another tool in your arsenal to get kids moving and playing, because I know that's one of the hardest things these days is how do you get the kids outside? And this is one of the funnest ways.
Welcome to Play Chi-Ball, the fast, fun, flow-inducing game that you can play anywhere, with anyone, anytime, even at school. In this video, we'll show you how to play Chi-Ball and the rules of the game.
You mean the Chi-Baller's code?
Exactly. Now let's get to it. Rule number 1 in Chi-Ball is keep it up. The simple goal is to keep that Chi-Ball in the air for as long as you can. The better you get, the faster the rallies go. And you don't have to just use your hands. Feel free to save it with your feet, chest, head, or any other body part to keep that rally alive. Rule number 2, don't say sorry.
Wait, don't say sorry? Why not?
Because Chi-Ball is a no-shame game. Every rally eventually comes to an end, and when it does, just pick the ball up and rally again.
1, 2, 3. But what if someone does say sorry? Sorry.
Then they can do an optional push-up. That's the Chi-Baller's way. And most importantly, rule number 3, have fun.
But how do we win?
Unlike most sports, in Chi-Ball, the motto is, together we win. Everyone's working together to keep the ball up.
But what if we want to try winning?
Then split into teams of 2 to 5 players and race other teams to 100 hits. If the ball hits the ground, you lose 10 points. If it bounces once and you keep the rally alive, you only lose 5 points. The fastest team to 100 hits wins. Now that you've got the rules for casual and competitive playdown, let's talk about some other games. You can rally as partners, which is the fastest way to play Chi-Ball. Play in triangles, squares, circles, or as a big group, which we call the party circle. In a party circle, you can even put a player in the middle to stop the ball from hitting the ground. We call this position the flopper. Right, Jerome?
That's right.
Jerome invented that position. Want more? Try rotating in a circle. That's called circles. Or rally 2 pairs across from each other at the same time. That's called crosses.
Is there anything else?
Sure, make up your own fun games. And most importantly, know that Chi-Ball is for all ages and skill levels. If you see a circle, jump in and rally. If you see someone watching, ask them to join. Because making friends with strangers is what Chi-Ball is all about.
True.
Your school is Chi-Balls now, so get out there and play. At lunch, in class, in gym, or whenever you need a play break.
Play Chi-Ball! Have fun. Bye now.
Play Chi-Ball, together we win.
So last year was the first full year, and we played with thousands of people, kids, adults, at gyms, events, festivals, etc. And there's something so magical about the game because it's non-competitive. Everybody's on the same team. And so when you get a group of people working together, everybody's encouraging each other. Everybody's focused on keeping the ball in the air. And it creates a magical environment. So if you haven't played Chi-Ball, you can get Chi-Balls at the QR code there at playchiball.com. You'll get hundreds of hours of play. You'll spread a ton of joy. They come with a clip so that you can hook them to your backpack or your belt, take your Chi-Ball everywhere, and make friends with strangers. That is the name of the game. So number 6, and we're going to get through this all, which is perfect. This is contribution. This is purpose. So I know for myself, everything became relevant when I discovered that I could make a difference in the world as an entrepreneur, as a creator. And it's a beautiful thing that when kids feel useful, they feel an empowerment, and their engagement in life or school or around the home increases. They feel resilience, and their effort really makes them feel like the effort they're putting in is creating a bigger reward. So there's science that shows that helping others and contributing activates dopamine and oxytocin in the brain. And these chemicals are connected to motivation, trust, and connection, things that we've talked about today. So contribution is also one of these things that shapes identity. And I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs and teachers and creators in the world, and everybody that I have worked with has this beautiful, slide didn't change. There we go. Has this beautiful connection that they're here for bigger reasons. And this is something that can be taught at a young age. So for kids, instead of feeling like a passive student or a passive consumer, they can see themselves as someone who matters and makes a difference. And that changes how they show up to life and to learning. So I remember, just a quick story. I remember years ago, Celeste found a homesteading mom who talked about every year, if I remember correctly, she had 4 kids, and every year on the kids' birthdays, they would receive a new responsibility as one of their gifts. And it was a part of their celebration because the child is graduating to a new chapter and a new phase in their life. And so we really love that, and we've adopted that with Soren. So around our house, one of the mottos we have is that we're all on the same team, which means when we work together, we have more time to play and relax together. So this last, I would say, couple years, we've started to do these things called family swarms. So if there's a big pile of laundry or if there's dishes to do after dinner, we just swarm it. We'll turn on some music, we might set a timer, and everything gets done so much quicker, which means we all get to relaxing together quicker. And it's more fun when we do the thing together. So when we do the family swarms, it's like, yeah, nobody really wants to do the dishes right now. We'd all rather be reading around the fire or like hanging out or playing a game. But if we swarm it, it's going to be done 3 times quicker, and then we can get to the thing we all want to do together 3 times quicker, which means Soren has more time for our presence to be connected and to be in togetherness, which is ultimately what kids want. They just want to be together. They want to be chilling with you. It's true. So contribution doesn't have to be complicated. It starts by giving some real responsibilities in the real world. And when kids help lead and support others and solve problems or take care of something that's important, they start to feel useful, and that usefulness builds confidence and a self-identity. And so instead of asking how do we motivate kids, we can ask how can kids contribute meaningfully in a big or small way. And when kids are relied upon, their engagement naturally rises because they're helping to shape the environment around them, the conditions around themselves. So here's a little experiment that you could try doing at home or in your school. So it's called a service sprint. So instead of just learning about problems, that get the kids to actually help solve something. And this is ultimately the job of an entrepreneur, is we're here to solve problems for other people. Obviously, you build a business and all that sort of stuff, but the heart of an entrepreneur, of what makes us creators, is to try and help people and to solve problems. And for us at Majik Kids, the problem we're trying to solve is to help parents raise empowered creators with less screens and more imagination, to bring the magic of childhood back and to tell the best stories for the times that we're living in, and to create a highly curated list of music that parents can trust that their kids are going to enjoy. So one of the things that you can do with the service sprint is start by identifying something small that could be improved. It could be in your class or your school, your community, or even your home, and design a simple action that can happen in a short period of time. So essentially, you can get the kids together. If it's in a classroom, break them into groups, come up with a plan, take the actual action. So spend an hour implementing or 2 hours implementing, and then do a reflection process afterwards. And notice what happens when kids are focused on the act of service. So at the end of last year, Soren declared that he loves cartooning and he wants to be a cartoonist. And so we had a family conversation, and we knew our Majik Kids newsletter could use some love, that it could be more exciting. And so we offered Soren the opportunity to do the Saturday morning cartoon section of our Saturday newsletters. And if you read our weekly newsletters, when we release new stories, music, and meditations, you'll see there's now Saturday morning cartoons. And what a fun and empowering thing for him to do, because now his cartooning has purpose, that there's people out there that read them and comment on them and like them. We also invite your kids, if your kids are into cartooning, that they could design their own Saturday morning cartoons and contribute them as well. Who knows what that becomes in a few years from now as Majik Kids continues to grow and enter more families. It could become a whole published magazine of kids' cartoons that created by kids for kids. So that is just like a simple experiment that we started that is now a part of our weekly rhythms. On Mondays, we get together in the studio here as a family. We brainstorm cartoon ideas. We're always sketching cartoon ideas in our spare time when we're just sitting around the living room. And then, that gets to be something that is an act of service that's spreading joy and humor to our audience at Majik Kids. And it's exciting for people to read every week. So, and it's also helping him to build skills in storytelling, in illustrating, in helping to craft these ideas that he's having. Take an idea and see it all the way through till the end, learning the creative process. And when kids feel that they can make the world a little bit better, they begin to believe in something bigger. They believe that they matter. And with all the problems we have on planet Earth right now, it's important that kids know that they matter, that their gifts are needed here. So just in some final closing reflections on the workshop, we're coming down the final stretch here. So just want to re-go through the 6 simple conditions that we can implement through today and not have to overhaul our entire life and change everything we're doing. These are all subtle shifts, and these small shifts can make a really big difference. So creating more moments of connection, helping kids build their regulation skills. So it could be through our imagination meditations inside the Majik Kids app. It could be more time out in nature. Offering agency and meaningful choice. So coming up with creative projects and learning experiences for your kids based around their passions and their interests. And, there's no shortage of ideas that exist. Bringing back more movement and play, protecting the imagination of the young ones in our lives so that they can dream into the more beautiful world, and giving kids the chance to contribute and feel useful in their lives, in the classroom, at home. And when these conditions are present, something powerful happens. Kids become engaged, they become more curious, and they become the empowered creators, which is what we're here to support them with. And that means that they're going to be more switched on, more creative, more excited about learning, growth, and discovery, because the environment supports their innate design. So the simple invitation today is feel into what resonates with you out of all these things and try 1 or 2 experiments over the next 30 days. Be consistent. Make these things daily rhythms and daily practices in your lives. And if you haven't tried it out and you want to check it out, the Majik Kids app is right here, or just go to majikkids.com. If you're a school, we have school plans, district plans, etc. We are in 50 schools in the Bay Area. We have hundreds of schools in motion right now, actually potentially thousands in conversations. So this seems to be what's calling us forward here at Majik Kids. And we would love your feedback if you're using the app. And I would love to hear what your top takeaway is from this workshop for those of you that are present. And for those watching in the future, feel free to leave a comment on the channel where you're watching or listening to this. So I really appreciate the time you all took today. This was the first delivery online, and I am stoked to see that we got finished at exactly the 60-minute mark. So that makes me really, really happy, because delivering something for the first time online, you just never know. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Would love to hear any top takeaways. Eric, dear Soren and teammates, truly deep bows of gratitude for your shining service and imaginative genie eyes. May we all be less genies, arses, and up our genie eyes, with love from the old geezer. That's hilarious. Thank you, Eric. Beautiful. I'm going to stop the screen share. If there's any final reflections, I appreciate you all. And this recording will go up on the Majik Kids YouTube channel later today. Sylvia, amazing presentation. Thank you very much. My wife Celeste will be presenting with me next time. She was very, very supportive and helpful as we pulled all this together. Thank you so, so much. Okay, everybody. Well, This will be live on the Majik Kids YouTube channel. Feel free to spread the word. We'll be delivering it live again in another month or so. So if you know friends or family that should come check it out, feel free to send the recording to them or invite them to the next live workshop. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Stay awesome.